Hello, guys, and welcome back to Skip the Small Talk. This week's episode, I thought that I would do something because it's 3 years since my ADHD diagnosis. So it's 3 years on Saturday. So that's the day before you'll be hearing this. It's Thursday when I'm recording. It's Sunday when you'll hear it. So yesterday was 3 years since my ADHD diagnosis. Happy third birthday to Ellie 2.0. So I thought it would be nice to do something like about the things that I wish I knew when I got diagnosed, because I feel like so much has happened in that time. Like, it's actually wild to me to look back and be like, it's literally 3 years and I've like written 2 books, built a massive audience online, like my whole career's changed, my whole life's changed, like everything has changed since getting that ADHD diagnosis. But there's still so far to go as well, which I think I didn't think at the time. So I thought, I could do like 10 things that I wish I knew when I got my ADHD diagnosis, which will hopefully be relatable to anyone that's ADHD or otherwise neurodivergent, but also like helpful for people who are like in the process of getting diagnosed at the moment, because maybe it's like some things to remember now that I wish I knew at that time. I would also apologize for like the wet hair and no makeup again, but I fear this is just going to be the normal state of affairs because I simply don't have the executive functioning skills and or lack of demand avoidance for this not to be the case. Like, if I'm looking slightly okay, then I get demand avoidance and I don't want to record. And then otherwise, like now, I just don't have the time to like actually like get ready and do my hair and makeup and all of that jazz, or the effort or the energy. So you're getting me like this, and you're probably always going to get me like this, but it means that you get me. So I hope that's okay. I've got my phone because I did a list of the 10 things while I was on a walk this morning, literally about an hour ago. So as you can see, the ADHD is still very much ADHDing. But yeah, let's get into it. Number 1. Unmasking is more like an onion than an orange. Bear with me on this one. So this is in the book. I talk about this in the end of the new book, How to Be You. But basically, like, I said that when I got diagnosed with ADHD and then afterwards with autism, I thought that unmasking was going to be like an orange. Like, I just had to like peel off this outer layer of masking, and then underneath would be like the whole orange, like the unmasked me underneath. Like, it was just this one thin layer that I had to peel away, and then like that would be it. But actually it's more like an onion, that it's like layer after layer after layer after layer after layer, and actually in cutting back those layers there's often tears involved. So I thought that was like quite a good, I love an analogy. Like, this whole thing is probably just going to be me sprouting analogies, but yeah, that's one that I wish I knew, and that I'm still like learning to this day, that there's like so many layers left to unmask. Like, yeah, there's like the basic top level stuff that you can do straight away, which is like sort of like let yourself be a bit more chaotic and like not hold yourself to the same exact standards, but there's so much more than that. Like, it's ongoing, and it's probably always going to be ongoing. And like, I spent 24 years being this masked version and learning and building this masked version of myself, so there's sort of like no wonder that it's going to take like probably that long to like unlearn that and go back to, well, not even go back to myself, because like I never was her in the first place. Like, I've been masking since I've been like aware of myself. So yeah, I think that's like a big one of like, there's so many layers to it. And yeah, I think like I feel like grief when it comes to that, because I think at the start I was like so like full of hope and optimism of like, like, look at me, like I've got it figured all out now, like I know who I am now, like it's all amazing, like woohoo, I'm unmasked, that's it, like job done. Like, the first half of my life, or the first 24 years of my life, I hope not half, I don't want to die at 50, but the first like section of my life has been so hard and so difficult and so exhausting, but like I've done it now, like, and I've unmasked now, so it's all gonna be fine going forward, when like that's very much not the case. It's a long ongoing journey, and I think I'm probably still like 90% masked at this point. So slow and steady wins the race, I hope, because it's tiring. Number 2, you're never gonna have it all figured out. Like, there's never going to be a day when you wake up and you suddenly have like all the systems in place and you're so organized and you're not chaotic and you're not overwhelmed and you know what's going on. Like, that day isn't going to come. So like the sooner you stop striving for that day, the better. And I think tied to that as well is like, there's no magic wand fix. Like, there's not going to be this one magic strategy or template or tool or thing that you do that's like suddenly going to like fix you and everything. Like, you're always going to face the same challenges. There's going to be things that help you to a certain extent that make them feel less overwhelming, but like they're always going to be there. I think that's something, like, I talk about this with like both autism and ADHD, of like, although like it was awful to be misdiagnosed with, like I was misdiagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, anxiety related depression, and agoraphobia. And so I just say anxiety because like who wants all that? But like to be misdiagnosed with anxiety was obviously awful because like there were so many parts of myself that I just thought were like wrong with me because I didn't have an explanation for them. But like when you're diagnosed with something like that, there's still always like hope of like, oh, well, one day I'll like get on the right antidepressants, or I'll find the right type of therapy, or I'll meet the right therapist, or I'll, like my hormones will balance out, or like I'll be older, or I'll be more settled, or whatever it might be. Like there's always this like hope that like one day it will be gone. Like there's not like the same permanence. I know that's not the case. Like I know that people can experience mental health like challenges throughout their whole life. But when it's something like that, especially like the way that the NHS treats stuff like that, it's like that you're going to find a fix to your anxiety, like you're going to get better. I think there's always like a hope that it's going to not be there forever. Whereas obviously when you get diagnosed with ADHD and autism, there's like the relief of finally understanding like who you are and like what you've known all along. But then that also comes with the realization of like, that means that it's never going away. Like I'm always going to be like I have always been this way, and I am always going to be this way. And I think that's a really hard thing to get your head around, because I think the way that we are in society as a whole, like we're always looking for like fix and like better, and like always aiming for this like ideal, which I think is like tied to capitalism basically, of like we're always like striving to be this like perfect person. And it's like you fix whatever's like air quotes broken, or you like find a way that you're going to achieve more and be this better person. And like that's just sort of not the case with everything. Like I'm always going to face the same challenges. I'm always going to find this stuff difficult. I'm always going to like, yeah, there's things that are going to make it better. I feel like this is like doom and gloom. You can really tell my state of mind this week in this podcast. It's all awful. It's never going to end. You're stuck here forever. That's not the case. Like there are things that are going to like make it more manageable. And even just like knowing, I think makes it so much better, because you start to stop beating yourself up for it. But yeah, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be difficult. I'm not going to magically one day wake up and not face these challenges anymore. I think that's something that I wish I knew. What's next? Hopefully something a bit more cheerful. Okay, this one's not as deep and heavy. Number 3, do the thing a few times before you publicly announce that you're doing the thing. So I think that it's definitely like my impulsivity, but like I'll hyper focus and hyper fixate on something and like figure out my whole like life plan. And I'm like, from now on. So one example is, I have like one other video on my YouTube channel before the podcast. And when I recorded that video, literally before I recorded it, I was like, I'm going to do a YouTube video every week, and I'm going to do long form content every week, and I'm going to use that to cut up into clips, and it's going to change my whole life, because I'm not going to be recording videos every single day. I'm just going to be, filming one long form video a week, and I'm going to go into the studio one day a week, and I'm going to spend one day filming, and I'm going to spend one day editing. And like I'd like announced this whole plan of like starting my long form career, and then I literally filmed one video and then stopped. And then sometimes I just hate that, because I'm just like, why the big announcement? Like, that's fine if you come up with that plan and you hyperfixate and you hyperfocus, but like maybe like practice doing the thing for a bit before you announce that you're doing the thing. Because, well, I mean, maybe it's also like, just don't be embarrassed that that's the way that you work. But that's one thing that I really get frustrated with myself about, because it's like I come up with this like grand announcement and grand ideas that are going to be like life changing, and then I announce it and then I don't stick to it. And I think the fact that you've announced it then adds so much more pressure, because then you're like, well, I look like an idiot if I've said that I'm going to do this thing and then I don't do this thing. Whereas if you just like did it, if you like found the joy in the hyperfocus and hyperfixation, like let yourself enjoy it and do the hyperfixation without telling the whole world that you're doing that. Or like announcing that you're going to do it forever and this is like a new thing that going forwards you're going to do this, then it would be so much easier to just like let those hyperfixations come and go without the shame of like, look at me like giving up on something again. So I think that's a big thing of like, just let myself do the thing in private. And it's okay that not everything sticks all of the time, but like you don't have to announce it every single time. I think it's like when you're like, right, I'm a runner now and I'm gonna go on a run every week, and then you don't go on a run every week, and then you like hate yourself because you've told everyone you're going to go on a run and then you haven't, so it feels like it's like embarrassing that you've not stuck to it. Whereas if you just went on a run and just enjoyed the run, then you wouldn't feel as much shame as not sticking with it if you had not told the whole world that you were going to. Do you know what I mean? It's like the like sharing that your intention is to stick with something and then you don't stick with it. Just don't share that. Like, you can share the thing, you can be like, hey, I've gone on a run, but you don't have to make the announcement of like, I'm going to go on a run every week from now on, because like you're probably not. So yeah, that's at me. Don't announce things to the whole world before like you know that it's actually true. And like probably there's never going to be something that I'm actually going to like, obviously now I've announced I've done it again, I've announced a podcast, but that's kind of good that I have the accountability that I have to stick to it. But like, be sure that that's what you want before you just announce things and then have the pressure to stick to them. I hope that makes sense. Number 4, it's better to just accept that you need to be constantly occupied. Okay, this one is, instead of like trying to force yourself to switch off, just accept that you need to be occupied. And like, this one to me comes back to like my phone a lot. Like, if I try to convince myself, I'm just going to have a lazy day, I will just scroll on my phone all day. Whereas it's like, that's not good for me. That makes me feel worse if I need a lazy day. Whereas it'd be better for me to just accept that, like, okay, I need to be constantly occupied. So even if that's just like having a podcast on and putting my phone in a different room, or like, I need to be occupied, so I'm going to go for a walk, rather than, you know, I know that I need to rest today, but actually going for a walk is going to be more restful than like trying to do nothing and just going into a black hole of scrolling doom. So I think like, yeah, I have got a lot better now that I've never really been a podcast girl, which, like, unpopular opinion because I've just started a podcast, but it's something that I've never done because, like, I suppose before I got diagnosed with ADHD, I just couldn't concentrate because I didn't know that I needed to listen to stuff in like 2 times speed or 1.5 times speed for it to be like enough to stimulate me and to keep me engaged. So that was like before. And then I guess like after, I'm the sort of person that I want to like absorb everything. Like if I was like listening to an audiobook, for example, like I know that I'm like prone to zoning off in different directions, and then I'm like, oh, I missed a bit, so I have to go back and listen to it again. Whereas now I have started really listening to podcasts, and I'm like, it doesn't actually matter if I zone in and out. It's just good for me to have that background stimulation. Like, I can go off into my thoughts. It doesn't really matter if I've missed a bit. Like, I can go back if I want to, but I can also just like treat it as background entertainment. I think that's my thing of like, I've always thought that whatever I'm watching or listening to, I've treated it like a school lesson that I have to be fully absorbed and pick up everything. Whereas like, actually, if you just treat it as like background stimulation, that like you're not, I don't know, watching a TV show in the background to actually watch the TV show, or you're not listening to the podcast necessarily to like absorb every single piece of information that they share, you're just using it for the purpose of background stimulation. And I think like that's better for me now to like have that always on in an evening or whatever, rather than just silence and scrolling on my phone. So yeah, I would say like accept the fact that you're always gonna, and always have like backup stimulation or entertainment prepared. Like, when you're going on a plane, for example, don't just be like, oh, it's fine, like I'll just chill out and listen to music, because like you're probably then going to get so agitated and frustrated that all you've got to do for like 4 hours or however long you're on the plane is listen to music. Whereas if I'm like, no, I need to be constantly occupied, so I'm going to make sure that I've got like some series downloaded or some podcast downloaded, or like I've also got a game on my phone that I can be like playing at the same time as listening to the music or the podcast or whatever. And just like, yeah, preparing for always needing stimulation, I think, is a biggie that I am just learning. 5, it's annoying when people tell you that exercise will help, but exercise actually does help. I think this is sort of similar to what I was talking about last time about like the mum advice of like the stuff when someone tells you and you just think, oh, like, jog on, mate, like you don't get it, you don't understand. If you think that having a cup of tea or having a bath or going for a run is going to solve my problems, then you clearly don't understand how deep rooted and bad my problems really are. Like, it feels so annoying, and I hate it when people are like, oh, you don't need ADHD medication, just go for a run. Like, I don't agree with that at all, but like exercise does actually help. Like, it does, and you're not going to want to do it all the time, and it's not like as a substitute for like, I'm not saying like don't do any of the other things that are going to help you, like medication or whatever, or that you should just be able to like air quotes fix yourself with exercise, because that ain't me, and you don't need fixing. But yeah, it does actually help. Like if I start my day with like today, I literally just like dragged myself out of bed and I'm in London for like worky stuff. I'm going to the Be Creator Awards tonight. Anyhow, I woke up and dragged myself down to the hotel gym and literally just did like 20 minutes incline walk on the treadmill and a few squats, and then like came up, showered, and then went to breakfast, which is like so minimal. Like I've not done like a big old workout. Like I'm not gonna like get stacked or lose loads of weight or whatever from doing that. Like it's not for the purpose of like the benefits, like the physical benefits of exercise. It's because doing that is better than otherwise. If I don't like force myself up and do something, I would have just spent that hour or like that half an hour that I was in the gym, I would have just been scrolling on my phone, and then I would have been in that state of mind all day. I actually saw a TikTok yesterday, maybe it was a TikTok, I don't know, I saw it probably was a TikTok, and it was like wherever you get your like first source of dopamine from in the morning is where like it's going to tune your brain into what it needs for the rest of the day. So if you start off your day scrolling TikTok where it's like basically like dopamine on speed, like it's literally just like purpose, like especially for me who watches them in 2 times speed, it's like you're literally getting like, it's like, I don't know, a sugar cube is being like, it's like, yeah, if you start your day with a sugar cube, then the rest of the day you're obviously not going to want to eat broccoli. Do you know what I mean? Because you've started off with that and then you're just trying to match that all day. Sorry, you can probably hear that siren going past. I'm going to wait. Okay, my hotel, I love this hotel, but it's also like right near a hospital, which isn't ideal when there's sometimes ambulances. What was I saying? Yeah, if you started the day with a sugar cube, then you're not going to want to like have salad and broccoli for the rest of the day, because like your brain's like, well, no, I've had the sugar cube, so I want things that are as good as a sugar cube for the rest of the day. And I think it's the same with that of like dopamine, of like, if you start your day with like 50 TikToks in a row, all on 2 times speed, all like designed to like hook you and like have you like gagged with stimulation, then there's no wonder that you're not going to be able to like sit down and focus or like read a book for the rest of the day, because your brain's like, well, no, I've got used to like this literal instant dopamine that is like scratching the itch immediately and great, and then nothing's going to scratch that same itch. You know what I mean? So like it's a combination of that, of like the fact that I'm then getting my morning like first dopamine hit is from like the endorphins of exercising for 30 minutes rather than from scrolling through TikToks that are like designed to hook my brain, just sets me up in a better state of mind for the day. And yeah, it just helps. It uses up some of my like hyperactivity. I sometimes think that like my ADHD is like a bucket full of energy, and if I don't use all of that energy in the day, then I won't be able to sleep at night. Like I'll just be lying in bed tossing and turning. And this is why it's really hard to be both autistic and ADHD, because a lot of the time I don't have, and chronically ill, I don't have the energy to like use up all of that bucket of energy. But then I can't sleep because it's still in there. Whereas like exercise is a good way for me to like pour a lot of energy out of that bucket at the start of the day, or at any time of the day really, but like yeah, using up some of that hyperactive energy so that I can then actually like switch off and go to sleep on a night, rather than just my brain always being at a million miles an hour. So yeah, exercise, it's annoying when people are like, oh, have you tried going for a run, or have you tried starting the day with a gym class? Because sometimes you're not going to be able to. Do you know what I mean? Like when it's really bad, like when there's a lot going on, you're like, this is the first time I've been to the gym. I'm like preaching today as if I've like done the best thing ever, which I have. I am the greatest person ever today. But I've not been to the gym in a month maybe. So like it's not going to happen all the time because I've been really overwhelmed and burnt out. But surprise, surprise, the day that I do manage to like force myself and use the energy to go, then I feel loads better for it. So yeah, it's annoying when people tell you that exercise will help, but it actually does help. Number 6. 99% of the expectations you burn yourself out for are actually just in your head. This is something that I like realize in therapy all of the time, that I am like I'll do all these things and I'm like next thing. So like I've achieved a lot in 2 years, right? A lot. I've written and published 2 books. I've built an online audience. I've done talks with the coolest companies in the world. I've done a TED Talk. I've done all of this stuff, right? I've done so many cool things and I'm so grateful for that. But like, it's actually not normal, the amount of stuff that I've done. And anybody else anybody in the world would look at that and be like, okay, you've achieved everything that you should have, like you've achieved more than is like humanly possible to achieve in 2 years, like go chill out for a bit. Whereas in my brain I'm like, oh no, but I have to do the next thing, like I'm letting everyone down if I don't do the next thing. I need to like keep going, like I'm going to be wasted potential, I'm going to like not be meeting the stuff that I should do and I could do, when like nobody else is thinking that. It's only me that's thinking that. Like it's me that doesn't think that I've done enough, and it's me that feels like wasted. Like no, I don't think anybody else in this world would look at me and be like, you're wasted potential. Because like what's wasted? I've done loads of really cool stuff, but because it, like there's that never ending thing of like I could be doing more. Like I could I've got like a #1 Sunday Times bestseller, I could write another book, I could be doing bigger talks, and I could be working with cooler brands, and I could be creating more change, and I could be running more events, and I could like there's all this stuff, but like nobody else is sitting and being like, you should be doing more, you've not done enough, you're wasted potential. It's only in my brain that I'm thinking that. So it's only my expectations that are causing me to burn myself out. It's not that anybody else is forcing me to do any of these things, it's just me. So I think like when you feel like you're not doing enough and you need to do more, the chances are that nobody else is actually thinking that. It's probably just you, or like nobody else is thinking it to the same extent that you are. Like nobody has as high expectations for yourself and as high like shame if you don't do those things as you. So like don't project those expectations that you hold for yourself onto the outside world, and feel able to like let them go and like have a bit of perspective with them, because it's not that everyone else is thinking it, it's literally just you. Number 7, you're not going to instantly click with every other neurodivergent person just because they're neurodivergent. This is a big one, and it's something that I'm probably like guilty of not clarifying as much. Like I talk a lot about like the benefits of finding neurodivergent friends, and it is so healing to finally find people that like get the way that you work. But I think with that, I sort of thought, okay, that means that any neurodivergent person that I come into contact with, I'm going to belong with them, like I'm going to click with them, and I'm going to be able to like form friendships with any of them, which obviously like isn't the case. Like you have to actually have things in common with those people, whether that's like common interest or like shared morals and values. And like also some neurodivergent people are just going to be equally shitty people as neurotypical people, you know? And I think that's something that I really held on to, of like, oh, just because I found this group of people who are also content creators and also late diagnosed, that's it now, I'm going to belong here forever, and these are my like people, and these people are going to love me, and they're going to be there for me, and like I belong now, which like hasn't necessarily been the case. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, I've found some really amazing friends who I love who are also neurodivergent, but I've also had shitty experiences with people who are neurodivergent who have also like triggered a lot of my friendship trauma, or been nasty to me, or left me out, or misunderstood me, or like tweeted about me and like made me feel rubbish, and like done all of these things which are just as horrible as neurotypical people did to me. Doesn't make a difference that they're neurodivergent, because I don't know, people are still not all nice people, and even if they're not nice, not nice, even if they're nice people, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to click and be friends. Do you know, like if you don't have anything in common, then if the only thing that you have in common is that you're both ADHD, then that's sort of limited as far as like topics of conversation or activities or whatever go. So I think that's a big one. Like I don't want you to think that just because you can't click with all neurodivergent people, you're doing something wrong, or like you're still broken or damaged or whatever, because like it's just the same as like just because someone's ADHD doesn't mean you're going to get on with them, you know, that you have to have other things in common as well. And like there's still the same amount of rubbish people with neurodivergent or neurotypical. This really is doom and gloom. I'm so sorry. Like I promise I do have friends that I love and that love me, and I'm so grateful for, but I really basically like I let myself be in situations that I felt rubbish in, because I was like, oh no, these people understand me because they're neurodivergent. Like maybe they did understand more of my experience, but it didn't actually mean that they like loved me and valued me and treated me in the way that I deserve to be loved and valued and treated, just because they understand the way that my brain works. So yeah, you're not going to get on with every other neurodivergent person, and that's not your fault if you don't. A biggie. Number 8, you are an addict. It's just how you're wired. If it's not drugs or alcohol, then it's probably your phone or achievements or people pleasing. At me. I think like we are wired to have addictive personalities. Like that is what hyperfixation and hyperfocus feels like. It's like you're like literally like pump my veins full of this feeling of like obsession and excitement and happiness and joy and all of these things, and like we get off on that addictive thing, like we just do. And if that isn't affecting you in the more traditional ways, such as like alcohol or drugs or whatever other like vices people have, it's probably still affecting you in some ways. Like I know that I am addicted to my phone, social media badly. I'm trying to like work with that at the moment, but like that's the case. Like I currently am addicted to my phone, and I'm addicted to achievements. Like I always want more and bigger and better, like I've spoken about earlier. And I'm addicted to like validation of like I need to always be doing something that someone's telling me it's good, because otherwise I've like got used to that feeling and I've got hooked on it. And I think like, you know, you might not be an addict in the traditional sense, but your brain is wired to have like an addictive personality. So just like be aware of that, and probably like where possible, like channel it into something that's like less dangerous. Like obviously it's not good that I'm addicted to people pleasing, like that still has detrimental effects, that I'm just exhausted all the time, but it's better that I pour it into being addicted to that rather than something that's going to be more dangerous. I feel like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, I think just like being aware of the fact that you do have an addictive personality, and that's something that's going to show up in like potentially different ways than you've like been explained or understood before. Whew. Number 9, you're probably always going to leave stuff until the last minute. Yeah, as I told you, so it's now 10:46 and these notes on my phone were written at 9:21, and that's only because what have I done in between that time? I've gone to breakfast. Oh no, I went to breakfast before that. I basically updated my camera and like sat on my phone basically. But like, yeah, I've left it until the very last minute without procrastination in the middle. But yeah, you're probably always going to leave stuff to the last minute. Like it's better to like work with that rather than trying to always force yourself to not do that. Like in my head, I was like, oh yeah, I'm always going to record the podcast on a Monday, because then we've got the whole week to like edit it and get the clips ready, and then it's like done. I don't have to think about it, and it'll just be all ready to go out on Sunday. Whereas like, you know, this is slightly less last minute because it's Thursday, not Saturday night, but it's still getting on towards the end of the week, you know? So I think just like know that you're probably always going to leave stuff to the last minute. Your brain likes urgency. That's just the way it is. And again, just like be more gentle with yourself of like, you don't have to beat yourself up of like that you're so lazy or so like disorganized or whatever, because that's just how your brain works. You just prefer doing stuff at the last minute, and you just need that urgency to like motivate you to actually get it done. So don't, like, first of all, don't beat yourself up for that, but secondly, like, again, like find ways of like leaning into that, and instead of like pretending that you're going to do it at the start of the week and then like stressing yourself out the whole week, just like say, I'll record it on Thursday because that's the latest I can do it for it to be edited before the weekend, you know? And finally, number 10, there's a fine line between unmasking and going too easy on yourself. This one, I don't know if I've worded that correctly, but something that I've really battled forwards and backwards with all of the time is like, where is the line between like masking that is harmful and just like a healthy amount of discipline? Because like I never want to do anything really. Like every single morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, don't want to shower, don't want to go to the gym, don't want to see anyone, don't want to talk to anyone, don't want to film videos, don't want to, like, every day I wake up and I don't want to do anything. So if I was just like, okay, I'm going to completely unmask and I'm going to let myself just like do what I feel comfortable with and do what I want to do, then that would probably be 0, because even the things that I want to do, I struggle to find the actual urge to do. Do you know, like the things that I want to do in theory, I often don't want to do them in practice. Like I know that I want to have a podcast, but still this morning I'm like, but record the podcast today. Like my brain doesn't want to do anything most of the time, even the stuff that I enjoy and that I know that it's good for me and that I do want to do, but I just don't want to actually have to do it. Do you know what I mean? So I think like if I was to completely be like, I'm just gonna, you know, do what, like get like be more en masse and not force myself through things, then I would do nothing all the time. Like I have to force myself to do stuff to a certain extent because I know that I have to do something. I can't just rot in bed all day, and I would feel worse for rotting in bed all day. So that's something that I really battle with, of like, okay, where is the line where I'm just like pushing myself a healthy amount to do the things that I need to do and that I want to do, and where's then crossing that line of like masking and like performing and burning myself out with stuff that I don't actually want to do. You know, I think it's a really hard line, and I guess something that I'm still figuring out, so I don't really know what I would tell earlier me, but just like be aware of that fact. Like don't completely step your foot off the pedal of like motivation and discipline, because then you will feel like sometimes you have to force yourself. Like this morning, last night before I went to bed, did I think, yeah, I want to go to the gym in the morning? Yes, I did. Did I then wake up this morning and go, I don't want to go to the gym this morning? Yes, I did. But did forcing myself to go, no, you're going to the gym, actually make me feel better? And did I enjoy it once I was there? Yes, it did. Do you know, it's like finding that balance of like sometimes you have to keep your foot on the gas a little bit to make yourself do things that are going to make you feel good and going to help you get to where you want to be, and are going to, just have positive outcomes without constantly having your foot to the floor, like full acceleration mode, forcing yourself through everything. So I think like it's like be aware of that biting point. You know, when you're driving, like you have to have the biting point to like mean that you can like go enough without stalling, but you are not like flying up the hill. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but hopefully you know what I mean. But like, yeah, find that bit of like the healthy level of discipline and motivation and forcing yourself to do stuff without forcing yourself to mask and do things all of the time that are just going to burn you out and that you don't actually want to do in the first place. My voice is going really croaky, so luckily we're at the end of the 10 things. Please let me know what you would add to that, because I feel like, again, I just did that very last minute, so there's probably like over this week I'm probably going to think of loads more things that I would add, but I think that's the main gist of the things that I would add when that I would have told myself when I first got, like, I wish I would have known when I first got diagnosed with ADHD. I don't know why I can't talk today. I wish I would have known when I'd first got diagnosed, because they do feel a bit like cynical when I'm reading that list out, and I hope this hasn't been like the most depressing thing in the whole entire world. But I think my main thing is like that I thought that it was like, woohoo, everything's going to be amazing now, and like it is a lot better, don't get me wrong, but like I'm still me, I still have the same brain, I still face the same challenges, and I still have to like battle with it all the time, basically. So yeah, I think this is definitely skewed by the fact that I'm not having a very good time at the moment, but maybe it's a realistic thing that I wish that I would have known. But yeah, please let me know what you would add, what you wish you knew when you first got diagnosed, or if you're in the process of like going through figuring out if you are neurodivergent or newly diagnosed or like self-diagnosed and waiting to get a medical diagnosis or whatever it might be. Like, what are you figuring out at the moment? And I guess what questions do you have as well for people further down the line, because maybe I could come back to it and do a more thought out episode, which probably won't happen because I will always leave stuff to the last minute. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. Happy 3rd birthday to Ellie 2.0. Thank you so much for making her life so much better, because you are here and you give her the platform to do ridiculous things all of the time. I hope you have a lovely week, and I hope I sound less croaky next time and I'm also less miserable. Maybe I can have a more cheerful episode next week. But yeah, hope you have a lovely day, hope you have a lovely week, and I will see you next time. Love you, bye.